Dandy is, at least in my opinion, the main character of the game Dandy's World. He serves as a special role and is more elusive in the fact that unlike the other in-game mains, you can't play as him. Well, unless you're a dev, but that doesn't count. He is, by all means, the star of the show. The state Garden View is in is directly his fault, and he continues to be a driving force behind the events we play through in this game. He is the center of the game, the one this whole world and story revolves around. So why does this Twisted kinda suck? For me to best explain this, let's go take a quick look at the other lethal Twisted in the game, Dial. What does Dial have/do that Dandy does? He's able to one-shot you no matter how much health you have, able to hear a machine failure from anywhere on the floor, however this is shared with Astro and V as well, not just lethals, a unique spawning mechanic, and at least one achievement. Though Dial has 2 that were added immediately compared to Dandy's 1 that was just added. And that's it. Now, let's look at what Dial has/does that Dandy doesn't. A mechanic that is exclusive to him, a unique floor with an extra challenge and reward, and you're required to face him at some point if you plan to do a long run. Now, doesn't that seem a bit odd? They're both lethals, and both seem to be rather important characters to the game's story, so why does Dial function far more uniquely than Dandy does? And while yes, Dandy does get attracted to completed machines, that's not too hard to deal with in all honesty. Just pay attention to where he is and have a good exit route. It's even easier if you have a good distractor, as then the mechanic is entirely ignored. So here are my suggestions for ways you could possibly be updated to be more unique, like Dial is. I do not believe the achievements are bad. In fact, the game seems to consider Dandy and Dial on the same level difficulty-wise, which, not really, but still. Dial's first achievement is Bronze, and Dandy's first achievement is Silver. Both fulfill the same requirement of encountering and surviving them. So that'd make Dandy more difficult, right? Not exactly. Dial simply requires you to encounter and survive him, while Dandy needs you to do the same while playing as a main tune. And from a just starting perspective, like most of these achievements are built around, that's going to take longer. You'll likely have survived at least 2 or 3 Dial floors minimum before even getting a main. 5 in my personal case. I won't be covering overtime though. This isn't a Dial video after all, and I think that achievement when compared to Dandy is a whole other can of worms. Anyways, tangent aside, back to the main video. Out of all of these things, I think Dandy needs a different mechanic, or an additional one. Here are a few of my proposals that I think would work well. Both of my proposals I think would work best together, and they both revolve around a massive part of Dandy's character and something that is still largely unexplained as of now, his seeming obsession with tapes. This is more of a limited mechanic, as not many players would directly encounter it, but there'd be a decent number of players who deal with side effects from it. And that is something to do with abilities that cost tapes to use. So far, tunes with abilities that cost tapes are Tegan, Sprout, Ginger, and Blot. Now, aside from Blots, all of these serve as healing abilities. Here are my 2 ideas for this one. Using an ability that costs tapes alerts Dandy to your location if you're Blot or Tegan, or if you're Sprout or Ginger, it'll alert Dandy to the location of the person you healed, possibly putting them in more danger. This could make healing or distracting other Twisteds on a Dandy floor a lot more of a risk-reward if you don't have items or a Cosmo on your team. This concept does come with a few downsides though. 1, it's possibly more buggy when adding new tunes with tape-costing abilities, and 2, it could possibly be used for griefing, though it's still a bit more situational than other common griefing strategies. Abilities that cost tapes are just flat-out disabled for the floor. Sprout and Ginger would be unable to heal others, Tegan would be unable to heal herself, and Blot would be unable to spawn any Blot Juniors. This would remove the risk-reward mechanic, but can't really be used for griefing. I'm not sure how buggy it'd still be, but it's a second option that makes Dandy floors still more dangerous. Very simple to explain. Picking up tapes on the floor also attracts Dandy to your location. This could actually be used both as a danger to players unaware of this, and also be used as an alternative to distracting if, say, you're playing solo, or your distractor died, or you never had a distractor on your team. Distracting him by luring rather than having him chase you. Requires some good routing with the tapes as well to make sure you don't lure him straight to where you or others on your team need to go. And in my idea, he'd also prioritize this sound over heading toward finished machines. So let's say you have someone in some tiny side room who just finished a machine, but oh no, Dandy was closer than they thought, and that hallway is too small to avoid him. Rather than that player being doomed, someone could pick up a tape to pretty much save them. And this isn't a brand new concept either. Babette already has an extremely similar concept with her being alerted when items on the floor are picked up. So this is a thing they've already done and wouldn't be some insane idea. Perhaps if Connie is on the floor, going past her acts as the same trigger since she does make the same sound as picking up tapes. Though it is only once per tune, and I feel it's more non-diegetic for the player's benefit rather than something the tunes would hear. So I don't know on that one. Starting this section, I want to mention how I do think Dandy should have his own unique floor like Dial does. However, I think it should function a bit differently. Rather than being guaranteed to always spawn with him, it's instead a chance. He can either spawn on his own floor or just on a regular floor. I wouldn't want this to just be, when Dandy spawns, it's tossed into the pool of every other floor generically. Rather, it is a chance, but it's a higher chance to be the chosen floor when Dandy spawns. Perhaps this chance also gets higher the more you encounter Dandy in one run. Why should I want to encounter this floor, you may ask? Well, a few reasons. First and foremost, lore! In case you weren't aware, yes, Dandy's World does have a story. I'm surprised more every day by how many people don't seem to know that. Rest in peace Delilah and Arthur. I guess at least a quarter of the fanbase doesn't know you exist. Anywho, this floor would come with a lot of environmental storytelling, stuff you'd start picking up more the more you encounter the floor. It should have at least one lore room, and I feel like since the mains are intrinsically tied to Dandy, they should all also get one or more lore dialogues you can encounter while playing as them on this floor. And yes, tunes can have more than one lore dialogue, though we've only seen this with Squirm so far. There'd also be a Dandy-focused lore video. I'd personally like to see one that is implied to be taking place after the malfunction incident, so we can get more insight onto what actually happened there. But I'd be fine with pretty much everything. I'd love to learn more about Dandy as a character. Now, what if you're not interested in lore? What if you're one of the people in the fanbase who has no idea who Arthur Walton even is? Well, there'd be some other things to this floor too. For one, there'd be more machines than average when you get this floor spawn. Not dial levels, but around +5 to your current machine count for that floor. So you'd only get 25 machines if you're that far into a run to be getting 20 machines anyways. More machines means more Ichor, simple enough. On top of that, this is Dandy's domain. He keeps all items on his floor with his shop in the elevator, so on this floor there would be no item spawns. However, he does often bring his tapes back to this floor, resulting in far more tapes than average spawning. This would be great for tape ability tunes as a chance to stock up, as their abilities can get pricey to use. Of course, Dandy is still alert by places by the sound of you taking his tapes. So, always best to be cautious. Also, even if you or your team don't need tapes or anything, the extra tape still gives you extra chances to interact with his luring mechanic and be more clever with how you get him away from machines you need to do, or make sure he doesn't go toward the elevator during panic mode. To wrap up this section, I'll mention a few other things. 1. Dandy can still spawn with any other Twisted, including mains. 2. Blackouts cannot happen on his specific floor. Why? Well, I assume he'd take better care of the lighting on his own floor. Actually, it's because of how much you'd likely be using the luring on this floor. Being able to see where the tapes are is vital. 3. Ichor leaks and any other floor event during, events, spring fever, iced over, etc., can still happen. Now, before I wrap this up, I'm going to quick fire through a few other little changes I think would drastically benefit him. Going back to Dial, if you deal with Dial's floor, it's tricky, yes. However, you're given an incentive, a reason to want to face him. You get a permanent plus 50 to your stamina for the rest of the run. Now, obviously, as a Twisted to be able to face multiple times, unlike Dial, plus 50 stamina would be a little OP, so here's my idea. At the end of a run, for every Dandy floor you survive, you get somewhere between, say, like, 50 to 100 Ichor, or something in that range. It makes sense. Dandy as the leader of the Ichor operation, you get Ichor for surviving him specifically. It also helped fix issues with Ichor taking a long time to grind for with all the new tunes and skins and stickers and trinkets. You need a lot more Ichor in total if you plan to get everything, which can take a lot of grinding as the amount of Ichor you get at the end of a round hasn't changed. As of now, once you finish his research and get his trinket, there is absolutely no reason to try and encounter Dandy, and when you do, it's more of a slight inconvenience because you or your team just forgot to buy things from him. I will keep this short, because there's one major thing about his stats. He needs his speed buffed. Because what do you mean Shrimpo is faster than Dandy? Mr. I Hate Everything Shrimp Man, whose whole game mechanic is that he's bad at everything, is faster than the main antagonist of the game. Why? Not to mention Finn. Finn is a Twisted who had the bottom half of his body torn off and he drags himself across the floor with his tiny little glass hands with thumb knobs. And he's only a little bit slower than the giant quadrupedal goat cat monster thing. Again, why? And it's not even a big difference. We're talking same chasing speed and Finn being 0.5 slower while roaming. Where is the logic for this? Sorry about that. Anyways, my point is buff his speed stat. Please. Even just a little bit. Make him faster than Shrimpo at least. Keeping this section short and sweet as well. As of writing this, I recently watched Drop's video on reworking Twisted Dandy, and I actually quite like how they handled his reworked spawn mechanic. I don't think I could come up with any ideas that wouldn't just retread what they already said, so I'm linking their video in the description, and I highly encourage you to check it out after this. I think they had the right idea with making Dial a Twisted that, in practice, cannot be distracted. If you have a good distractor, distracting removes any and all threat from the Twisted, and I think Dandy is greatly harmed by this. While I don't personally think he's dead easy to deal with when solo or without a distractor, he's somewhat on the tier of most, not you, rares. But when distracted by someone who knows what they're doing, he's laughably easy. He just becomes another Twisted trailing behind the distractor, and his one and only current mechanic no longer exists. And distracting him isn't too bad either. As I mentioned earlier, his stats aren't anything all too special, and his extremely high attention span makes him easier to deal with as he won't be constantly losing sight of you while you loop. So his only major threat at that point is his large hitbox. Again, a distractor who knows what they're doing, this isn't an issue. If your distractor was on one heart, Dandy is barely different from any common Twisted. While I do not have any idea as to how this would be done, perhaps they could play with how Dandy seems to be more intelligent, or at least more aware than other Twisteds. Maybe he gets bored chasing the same tune for too long and will stop following them himself. And to make sure they don't just pick him up again, there's a 10-second cooldown before he'll follow you again. And if he keeps returning to you, he gets more annoyed and faster every time. Maybe even just killing you for toying with him if the same tune does it one too many times. To wrap this video up, the last thing we're going to cover is the recent addition of Tune of the Week, and the brand new Twisted behaviors we got from that. While I'm not sure if Dandy will get a Tune of the Week, since obviously he's not playable, but either through his own update or other tunes Tune of the Week, I'm sure he'll eventually get some Twisted behaviors. So let me cover a few that I think he could receive, from most to least likely in my opinion. Twisted Pebble will follow Twisted Dandy if they are on the same floor. Twisted Dandy will follow Twisted Astro, or the other way around, depending on how their canon dynamic is revealed, if they are on the same floor. Twisted Dandy may stop to look at posters, cutouts, plushies, anything with him pretty much. And finally, least likely in my sad opinion, Twisted Dandy may occasionally stop to play with tapes on the ground, like in that one short. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. And hello to those people who just skipped to the end. I know who you are. Anyways, I will end this video with a note that this whole thing was made out of a genuine love for the game and wanting to see it improve. The game is obviously still in an alpha state, and so many things could possibly change and shift after I make this. Perhaps Dandy is planned to be overhauled in the next major update. Perhaps Dandy will never be updated. I'll still enjoy the game no matter what happens here. I still do actually enjoy Dandy as he is in-game. I just also see his potential to be so much better. I know that pretty much nothing in this video would actually be implemented. Hell, I doubt anyone from Blush Crunch is even going to see it. I mean, if you are watching, hi, that's pretty cool. But I know my expectations. Now that we're done, I'm gonna go back to listening to Twisted Dandy's version of Clair de Lune on loop. Poppy for Smash, or something. Mira signing off.